Hello and welcome back to Constellation League, a Warhammer podcast. We hope everybody has had a wonderful holidays and New Year. I'm one of your hosts, Scott.
And I'm Paul.
And as I said, we're back after taking a little bit of a breather over the holidays to try and refresh batteries and
Yeah, just a little 6 week break, I guess.
do some
Um,
healing of wounds.
yeah, yeah.
And we can,
Healing bruised egos,
yeah,
getting ready.
remembering why we love this game.
Yeah.
Just having a little break like that. I'm sure everybody's in the same boat. There wasn't a lot that was on the go over the holidays, so we took a little bit of a breather, but we've got some
Mhm.
recaps of some games we have been playing, some leagues that we've just signed up in, or some existing stuff that we're kind of on the go that we're
Mhm.
excited to talk to everybody about. Um, so why don't we start off with kind of where we're at right now
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
what we're playing. We can talk a little bit about some stuff we played at the very beginning of the year, or at least I can. Um, I know I played in the Critical Hit GT that was on the go
Yeah.
back in early January, and I can kind of give a recap of how that disastrously went. Um, not to bury the lead, but I can talk about that a little bit. Um,
Spoiler alert. Went
yeah,
as good as you can
yeah,
expect, folks.
yeah.
So why don't we dive into that GT? Because
Sure,
you and I
sure.
haven't really talked about it much other than through text.
Yeah, so it was an interesting one. It was a 2-day GT. I
Hmm.
ended up, I will admit, full transparency, I played one day of the GT.
Yeah.
It was my anniversary weekend, my wedding anniversary weekend.
Hmm.
So I felt a little guilty taking 2 days out.
Hmm.
Um, Performance on day one was pretty bad. I felt better losing out on day two, to be perfectly honest. But I can
Right.
talk a little bit about it. I went into it not playing my Votan. I wanted to take a little break from the Votan and try
Hmm.
playing a little bit of my Space Marines again, just for something a little bit fresh, just for something a little bit new. Um,
Might not have been the best idea for a GT.
was not necessarily the best idea for a GT. I went in with
Hmm.
a completely untested list, went in
Hmm.
with it not being 100% on all of my rules and stratagems and everything like that. Um,
Zero practice games, right?
Zero practice games, kind of went into it. I was thinking like, oh, playing these guys will be like putting on an old sweater. This shouldn't be a big
Hmm.
deal type of thing. I ended up really forgetting what some of their toughnesses were, what some of my stuff was, and just bouncing around and playing like that. So it was a pretty poor performance on my part. I wasn't really happy with how I played. But I thought my list was interesting. I went in with, I played my Imperial Fist on the Firestorm Assault uh,
Hmm.
detachment. Main reason for that was I had some Eradicators and some Centurion Devastator
Hmm.
squad in there. And my
Hmm.
idea there was that I want to get these guys moving. I want
Hmm.
some movement up the field. I want them to be able to actually punch into what I need them to punch into.
Hmm.
Centurions only move about 4 inches.
Yep.
Eradicators move about five. Coming from Votan, I was like, okay, a little bit more movement wouldn't be a bad thing.
Hmm.
They don't necessarily fit into vehicles too well, or at least I don't have vehicles that they could fit into too well.
Right.
And I was trying to avoid having to buy anything and build
Yep.
anything for it and that kind of thing. Um, so that's kind of what I went in with the approach of I'm going to look for maneuverability, I'm going to look for movement, and I'm going to look for punch. I had a 10-man squad of heavy intercessors, which just got a little bit of a glow up from the new data slate,
Hmm.
with their two damage on their weapons now instead of the one, and
Yeah.
things like that. Like they've got just a little bit more punch into them, and they've
Yeah.
got obviously they're a T6 anyway because of the Gravis
Hmm.
armor, so
Hmm.
they're a chunky unit to kind of push through. They're 3 wounds apiece, so that's
I was
30
just about to
wounds,
ask that. Are they 2 or 3 wounds? So they're 3 wounds each, and you ran a brick of 10 and then
and then a
another
brick of
brick of
five.
5. Yeah.
So I was thinking, and then I had two whirlwinds in my back line, some
Hmm.
infiltrators and some hellblasters.
Hmm.
And I only took two. I took a lieutenant and also had some aggressors, 6 aggressors, and
Hmm.
I had an apothecary biologist in there.
Right.
Idea with those two was that they would give my units that attach them to lethals.
Right.
So I would be missing out on fire discipline from taking the Gladius
Hmm.
task force, but at least these guys would get lethals, which would be a nice little kind of bonus for them.
Hmm.
Um, I had the whirlwinds in the back line along with my infiltrators to screen out kind of my home objective, which was pretty much okay.
Hmm.
The big thing there, I was thinking like, okay, for any armies that are heavy on the infantry that are going to try and push into me quick with melee and stuff like that, my whirlwinds, because they're, I think it was a D6 plus 3, strength 8, damage 2 or 3 on them type of thing.
Hmm.
They would be great for picking up infantry minus 2 AP, I believe it was. So like they could just be picking up Space Marines. They could be picking up stuff so long as the wounds are getting through. Okay, pushing things onto a 5 up
Right.
save is probably pretty safe from a volume perspective.
Hmm.
Um, but they're indirect.
Hmm.
So they're only hitting on fours to start.
Fours. Yeah.
So that's really why nobody runs them anymore.
Right.
So lesson learned, they're great in concept, but in the
Hmm.
actual execution of using them,
Even
they
with choosing like your oath
even
target.
with the oath target, it was helpful, and I was able to. So um, I played into a couple guys from the mid-table terrors team. So
Hmm.
big shout out to them, Joel and James. They're playing their demons and they're playing
Guard, wasn't
their guard.
it? Hmm.
So
Or
the
Astra
guard,
Militarum,
yeah,
sorry.
the Astra Militarum. So the Astra Militarum list was just fantastic, and it was something to
Hmm.
play into. I had a lot of fun playing into these games, but the Astra Militarum list was his LVO kind of prep list, and
Wow.
it was not pulling any punches. It was there to kind of make sure you felt the pain.
And so like the James was going to LVO?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I haven't followed up to see anything else, but he and
Hmm.
I were talking about it. I mean, it was 1,000 to 1,200 people that were playing at
Oh
LVO.
yeah, it's something crazy. Yeah.
Absolutely massive.
Hmm.
So his list was kind of being tailored, and he was just getting some reps in with it, and trying to decide some last minute tweaks and stuff like that. So, obviously a fantastic opponent,
Hmm.
fantastic game that we had. I think we had a good chat back and forth about how everything was going, but he had heavy tanks. I still, even with my Centurions and stuff like that, I didn't necessarily have the anti-tank for an Astra Militarum list that's got a lot of tanks, that's got a lot of
Right.
the chimeras and different things like that. And I think there were some hellhounds or something like that that were out there. So things that could flame. He had the Gaunt's Ghosts, which were that are a lone op unit, so you
Hmm.
can't really do anything to them until you're in 12. And they've got some uppy downy type of stuff where they can move around the board and just gets
Right.
them into scoring and then out of the way and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So I had some fun. I had some good moments where I had some fantastic overwatches that
Hmm.
really took care of some stuff, and I was able to use my eradicators to blow up one of his tanks and got his Bullgrins, I think they were, out onto the field, and then I had to deal with them getting into melee and stuff. So that was an interesting challenge list. It kind of highlighted where some of my deficits were in the list that
Hmm.
I had pulled.
Combat?
Combat,
Yeah,
not great.
nothing. Yeah.
Nothing good to speak of. I mean, the
Hmm.
aggressors can get into some combat, but they can be taken care of at long range with some tanks and
Right.
heavy shooting. The Devastators or the Centurions, I thought they would be better in combat than they actually were.
Hmm.
They weren't very useful, and obviously anything that's going into an intercessor, they're they're not
There,
really known
no,
for
that's not,
punching. They're
no.
there for their shooting. They're not there for their hitting. And this is kind of a theme that played out across all of my games.
Hmm.
Was that once my units got tied up, they were
Yeah,
pretty
that was
much
it.
neutered. So a huge flaw in my list that way.
Hmm.
And obviously, it still goes without saying, I had no preparation going into this. I hadn't played anything before, so thinking that, oh,
Exactly.
this might be a small problem, and then realizing this is actually a huge problem were two very different things. So played into the guard list, didn't do well. Went up against the demons, and the demons are I love playing demons. They're a lot of
Hmm.
fun playing into them. There's a lot of shenanigans that they can do with uppy downy on
Hmm.
some stuff or with some of the new detachments. Now this one was playing with Slanesh, so this
Hmm.
was movement. And oh boy, was this movement. This was like up and on the board. This thing was moving real fast. 14 plus movement on just about
Oh my God.
everything.
Yeah.
So I was using my whirlwinds to take out some, forgetting what they're called now, but take out some
Seekers or something?
seekers in the smaller movement. Sorry, the smaller units that can score points really well.
Okay.
But then I still had two great big greater demons to deal with.
Hmm.
And I made some pretty critical mistakes on deployment and not setting up my lines of fire correctly.
Hmm.
There's one point where I brought in my Centurions, and if I had taken a minute to really think about where I could have lined them up better, I probably would have seen this shooting lane that my opponent pointed out to me later on,
Right.
and was like, "Oh, I thought when you brought them in, this is what you were going to do." And I was like, "You know what? I hadn't even considered that. That was something
Right.
that looking at
You
it,
just didn't see.
I didn't think about if I line them up all back to back, they've all got a line of sight on this one
Hmm.
guy. Whereas I was keeping them as a brick and moving them kind of around. I just, it was a pretty piss poor performance from me, if I'm completely honest.
Hmm.
At the tournament, I wasn't happy with how I played. My last game, I went into Tau, and as you know, Tau are kind of my bane. I have a very hard time playing into Tau, turns out, regardless of army.
Hmm.
But I was not pleased with myself.
Hmm.
I was not happy with the detachment that I had selected. The composition was probably okay with a different detachment. If I had gone Vanguard, I would have had nobody could shoot me outside of 12. I would have had a little bit of uppy downy. I would have had some deep strike on a unit kind of built in that doesn't naturally have deep strike. Or I could have gone with Gladius and then I could have had fallback charge and shoot and all that kind of fun stuff built into my list. But
Right.
the Firestorm Assault just did not have a response
No.
for me to fall back and shoot. I
No.
was thinking like my entire strategy going into it was shoot, move, castle, and just kind of castle as I'm going.
Hmm.
But as soon as the enemy was on me and could get me into combat, the whole thing just fell apart on me. So
Well,
really,
yeah, the list was like when you sent it to me, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, especially seeing all those heavy intercessors. I was like, but the
hmm
strategy there would have been to like sit back and let people come to you so you could continuously shoot them. But I mean, like, I don't know. What do I know? Because like I'm not winning any games anyway myself. I'm playing games all the time and still,
hmm
scoring secondary, but forgetting to score primary and all
yeah,
that kind of stuff. So there's definitely a happy middle in there
yeah.
somewhere. But definitely that list I think is good. I just think it's a Gladius task force list so that
It's the Gladius for sure. I
you
think is the
pick
main problem that I had with it.
you bait them into combat with you and then you fall back and shoot them off the board is
Yeah, I think I just picked the wrong detachment and I went into it
mm,
kind of thinking, you know what, I think this will be good and fun. And I didn't come into it thinking, okay, whether this will have enough punch behind it with movement that I need should I get tied up. I didn't
yeah.
really consider that going into it.
Well, and
Um,
it's hard to go into like you jumped into, let's be honest, this was not a good decision. Switching from Votan to Space Marines
no,
without
this
having
was,
played any Space Marines, and I don't know when the last time you ran a Space Marine list was, to be honest.
uh, yeah,
Our first tournament at Critical
months
Hit,
ago,
maybe,
months and months and
where
months
I
ago,
played Black Templars and you played.
my
Uh,
Imperials.
your Anvil Siege Force, yeah, your Imperial Fist. I think that was the last time I
I
saw you play.
That might have been the last time I played it. So it had been close, just under a year to
Yeah,
almost a year.
if not a year. Yeah,
Yeah.
hands down.
Oh yeah.
And
I am not in the Constellation League because I make good decisions.
yeah, no, I know. We both make terrible gaming decisions, and that's why we're here.
And
And that's why we love it.
that's where we love to be
I've
at the bottom.
Yeah,
Um,
I've only played one game of 40K since our last show.
okay.
Because I think we recapped Secret Santa and all that
Yes.
good stuff.
Yeah.
So I've played one game since then. Played with our friend Mike, who we've often run into at
Fantastic Grey Knights player.
yep. Well, Mike this time was running Imperial Knights. He's getting ready for Kingston has its club champs
Okay.
coming up the weekend of February 15th and 16th.
Nice.
The Family Day weekend, they got their 2-day Club Champs event running down at Kingston Gaming Nexus. And Mike's running an Imperial Knights list. He's brought his Knights out to play.
Okay.
And I'd never played Knights. So when he was like, "Oh, would you mind? Do you want to get together and play?" I was like, "Absolutely." Like, I'm always up for it.
Yep.
So uh, I ran my Hypercrypt, and this is the first time I've played since the data slate adjustment.
Right.
So how that affects the Hypercrypt detachment is for a 2,000 point game, I'm no longer able to pick up 3 units at the end of my opponent's movement phase. I can only pick up 2.
Right.
I didn't think that would be as big a deal. I give my one of my guys an enhancement so that I can pick up 1 extra unit. Though I didn't do that this time, but I thought 2, that's not that big a deal. Well, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. So I lost that game. I think it was like 53 to 36 or something like that. So it
Okay.
wasn't
Not
like a
not too
washout,
bad. Yeah.
and it wasn't like he was running away uh, too far ahead.
Hmm.
But just wasn't able to push him off his primaries
Yeah.
and secure my own primaries at the same time. Um,
Now, does the hypercrypt is it impacted at all by the 3 inch move to only to now a 6 inch at all?
yes.
Okay.
So Cosmic Precision, the stratagem that lets you do the deep strike, is now 6 inches instead of 3, and it does make a difference. I'd like to
Okay.
say it doesn't really, but losing those 3 inches, it did impact the game.
Hmm.
Um, and he had a Canis Rex in his list,
Oh, okay.
which is like a strength 20
That shit comes to play.
-4 flat 10 damage
Yeah.
melee.
Yeah.
It ripped my monolith in half. Like he just
Hmm.
charged my monolith and then it was gone. Like it was absolutely, I was like, holy smokes. Like
Yeah.
that guy can really kick some ass. Though I did earlier in the game, like I took a bunch of wounds off of it
Hmm.
with just the little uh Plasmancer with the 10 Immortals with Tesla carbines, so you're getting lethals and sustains on 5.
Volume.
So volume of fire, and I think Canis Rex only gets a 3-up save. So I nearly whittled the thing down. I think he only had like 5 wounds left. But unfortunately, I whiffed in the shooting, and
Hmm.
paid for it. And then my 2 Catans were surrounded by a bunch of armigers and getting shot at by knights. And so they were just whittled down.
Yeah.
They did well, like they picked up a lot of his models and certainly gave him a lot to chew through. But without my hypercrypt, with being limited to 2 units, it wasn't like I was able to pick up the other stuff I had and like move it to places where it would really benefit me.
Right.
And one thing I changed, since this was just, a friendly game at home, I thought, why the hell not? I did tactical secondaries when I've been doing fixed.
Yeah.
And, sometimes you're just not in position to do it, right?
Yep.
So for me, I find it a little too swingy for the level of player that I am. And, my list
Again,
was designed to do a
not a good
certain thing.
decision.
Probably not a good decision. I should have just probably stuck to what I knew, established locus and behind, and
Hmm.
rinsed and repeated that.
But even then, you're still limited to your 2 units. So it's yes, you could get
Yeah.
on the center, but if anything's happening to the backline unit, then you've only got realistically one unit somewhere else that you're doing
Mhm.
something with because you're trying to keep the backfield kind of going
Exactly.
in the opponent. So
Well, and like, knights have pretty good movement. So,
yeah,
you moved an armiger close enough because you could give one of them like an advance and shoot. So you could move them close enough to get within uh, the lone op radius of
right,
my Hexmark destroyers and then just pick them up, right?
right.
Um, but it was a fun game. Uh, it definitely made me think.
Why do I
I
play
mean,
this?
why do I play this? Yeah.
What am I doing
First
to
and foremost, I'm
myself?
like, it made me think I'm definitely not buying a new army for 40K because
Yeah,
I was tempted to expand my Eldari because as we speak, the Eldari went on for pre-order this weekend, so the Codex is out and
yeah.
all those cool Phoenix Lords and their units have all been updated and they look great and they're all over YouTube right now. Everyone's posting their uh, first lists with the new models
Yeah.
and
I'm
it
trying
all
not to get swept up in it.
and I'm at that point where I'm like, sometimes 40K feels to me like it's too much accounting. It's too much like
There's a lot of
um,
admin.
a lot of it. It feels more admin heavy. That makes me like, if I haven't mathed this out correctly, how much fun am I gonna have
Yeah.
playing it?
I'm having a love-hate relationship with 40K right now. I'm not gonna lie to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm in the exact same boat. Because I play Heresy, which is like a super unbalanced game, but there's
mhm.
at least but it's a different thing because I'm not playing Heresy tournaments or anything like that. But
Yeah.
I'm not giving up on 40K because I've signed
No,
up. There's a
no.
spring league. I guess it's a spring, winter spring
Hmm.
40K league being run here out in Kingston, and I have joined it. And I'll either play Necrons or I'll play Death Guard.
Okay.
One of the two lists that I've
You're
armies
comfortable
that
with.
I'm comfortable with that I've finished. I might do Death Guard just because their codex is coming up. So there's
Hmm.
something, at least new and fresh there,
Yep.
rather than just the index detachment. So
Well, you've got the Grotmus detachment too now with it, which gives
and
you
the
a lot of
Grotmas.
movement and stuff,
Yeah.
which makes it a
So
different army a little
so
bit.
there's a lot to play with there.
Yeah.
Because Necrons, I've done the index detachment, I'd played Canoptic, uh, and now Hypercrypt. So I've bounced around quite a bit with Necrons. I'm happy with them. Like I
Hmm.
do, I enjoy playing them. But I think I'm leaning towards Death Guard just because there's a new book coming on the horizon. I
Yeah.
think that will be fun to lean into that. But so the league is there for me to sort of keep the 40K flame alive and have fun because,
Well, and
you know,
it'll be a good test bed for you to start playing some Death Guard games and say and working the kinks out and
yeah,
really figuring out
exactly.
if you do want to play it, and if you do, then how am I going to play it
Yeah.
and everything like that. Yeah.
It'll be
Yeah.
interest it'll be interesting too because I'm determined to not like I might get the new character model
Yep.
depending what its data sheet looks like. But other than that, like I'm not looking to expand my Death Guard at all. So I really am going to lean into playing with what I've got. And like,
Yeah.
for good or bad, like I don't have any Death Shroud
Hmm.
Terminators. I have Blightlord Terminators. They're cheap points. For me, they've always done pretty good
Hmm.
with the index detachment. So I'm gonna play with that, and I love my Blight launchers. Like I love
Yep.
those tanks, and I have two of
And I
those.
mean,
And
you've got a Typhus, you've got a Mortarion,
I've got
it's
Typhus,
not like you
Mortarion. They're
don't
all painted.
have stuff. It's not
Yeah, I
like
got
you're,
lots of fun stuff.
yeah.
20 Poxwalkers, and like so. There's a lot to do that, and I mean. The only other, I think, caveat I'll say is that, demons are going by the wayside in terms of being their own detachment.
It's looking that way.
It's definitely looking that way. So, there's going to be a little demon flavor thrown in there.
Hmm.
And I've got some Nurglings to build and paint, and If I happen to if I end up doing a great and unclean one, or you know what I mean? There's something
Yep.
like that I might do. I also have like Chaos Knights that I can throw in. Like I've got
Hmm.
two, a carnivore and a war dog,
Right.
and the Abominant from that, you know, ninth edition box.
Hmm.
So there are things I can do to add some variety.
Yeah.
So I think I am leaning closer to Death Guard for this league, just to sort of help keep the 40K motivation alive. And
The
I
only
think that will be
reco
the
I would
army I
make,
play for this year for 40K.
I would say the only recommendation I was going to make was just get reps in. Don't
Yeah.
don't go in cold. That's
Well, I'll probably
lesson
go
learned.
in realistically, I'll go in cold to the league. The league will be my reps.
Not the league. I'm meaning the tournament. Yeah, if
Yeah.
you when you go into that.
Yeah, I don't have any 40K tournaments on the horizon. What
Oh,
about
okay.
you?
I have one, I believe, the Lindsay tournament that's coming up. I believe it's in April, 11th
Oh,
and 12th or
cool.
something like that
The
that I
one you
signed up for.
missed.
I missed one in at the end of December slash something, so I've made it up by signing up for the April one.
Nice.
This one I will be making head ground into definitely making that one.
Hmm.
Again, I'm thinking I'm going to stick with some Votan, see what I can do with it. The Grotmus detachment, in my opinion, is shit. I don't like it.
Oh
I
yeah.
like the idea of it, but it removes your judgment tokens, which is the biggest thing of like getting judgment tokens back on stuff
Yeah.
is the real
So
challenge.
what's the mechanic there? If you take the judgment tokens away, what are you left with?
You're left with if you've got Culls, Uthar the Destined, or Hearthguard themselves, they get to
Okay.
re-roll ones, and they get an added AP
Okay.
if they're
S-
targeting the closest unit to them. So helps against ones, but they're still. I mean, the Hearthguard themselves are hitting on threes, so it's not so bad with them.
That's yeah. So that I was just about to say because I always see in like abilities and stuff re-rolling ones, and I never understood what the appeal was when typically things are hitting on threes and fours. You
If
know,
you
if
roll a lot of ones, it can be really
yeah,
beneficial to try again.
yeah, no, 100%. But you
That's
know
what it
what
comes down
re-rolling
to.
ones equals? More ones.
More ones. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Uh,
So that's the idea. That's kind of the appeal of it. And it gives you the added AP, but you miss the judgment token. So you're missing the +1 to
yeah.
wound, you're missing the +1 to hit. So instead of
Yeah.
it again on threes, you're on twos, and then it's a four to a three. And it's like I don't know that the trade-off is worth it, but I'm really curious what the potential attachments would be if and when a codex comes out, hopefully later in this year. Um, but I don't know if that's really going to happen this year. Like the problem that I'm having with the Votan is it's such a limited data sheet.
Yes.
Like you
It's a
don't
army list. It's a
it,
limited army
it's a
list.
really limited army list. So there's
Hmm.
not a ton of different ways you can play them that I can feel.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm having a hard time with them, and that's why I wanted to take a break because I was getting really disheartened with them,
Yeah.
having minimal success or mediocre success, but
Hmm.
mostly losing on them. Like it was just starting to feel a little heavy.
Yeah. No, it's
Where
discouraging, right? When you're
yeah,
like losing every game and you're like, well, my list is good. But so let me ask you this. At the GT, did you see any Votan players?
not a one. There was not a
Well, there
single
you go.
Votan.
There you go. Right? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, you would start seeing if they were really that hot. Because I think a lot of people bought Votan when the new box came out in ninth, right?
yep.
There was certainly a lot of excitement around them. But and they were good in ninth
They were
from
good in ninth. They
all
were
the
broken in
reports.
ninth.
They were
And
broken in
then
ninth.
10th came out and they got seriously neutered, but some people were still playing them.
Yeah.
And then I feel like they've just completely dropped off the board.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it's disappointing because looking at the horizon for 10th edition, and listen up, GW, because I know you watch the show, but it definitely seems like the Votan are going to be in 2026.
I think so. They're going
Scanning
to
the
be at the tail
horizon,
end.
they're going to be at the tail end, which, again, they're an end of edition army, kind of like what they did with, World Eaters,
Yeah.
Wotan. It's just sort of like, okay, so hopefully they get some big love before the spring into 11th,
hmm
because there's just all this,
I'm
there's,
hoping they don't actually come out with an 11th. I'm hoping that they just do iterative things on 10th for a while. Um,
I think it's too much of a money grab for them not to do like edition boxes. Um, they seem to be in this habit
hmm
of, what was it, 3-year cycles, 4-year cycles.
Yeah, 3 to 4 years.
And it's such a huge, like, the uptick in sales for them is just so big that I can't see them stepping away from it. And then unless they call it like 10.5. I mean,
What I
they
could
don't
see
really
them,
label it, I guess, as 10th edition, or maybe they do. Like, it's not marketed. It's like, here's the Leviathan box, buy me.
yeah, I think what would be the thing that I could see happening in the future
Hmm.
is when the true media stuff actually hits, is when they'll
Right.
do a refreshed edition to
Yeah,
launch
like,
with that to get a whole bunch of new people into the new edition at the same time as this stuff launches. So you've got a whole bunch of kind of this is easy kind of to
yeah.
get people into. That's
Well, that's
so
10th definitely has that part going for it. Like, it is pretty easy to pick up and play.
it is, but I
Uh,
think it is like a new edition would be like
mm,
when that new media comes out. In my mind, that would make a perfect marketing time to do it because then
yeah.
it's you're getting new eyes onto a new edition with new rules, so everybody's learning at the same time.
Hmm.
That would be kind of the something that makes sense to me, but what the hell do I know? But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think Votan's going to be getting any love for a good while.
Yeah.
But what they've done at Grotmis at least tells me that they've got the ability and interest
Hmm.
to do iterative stuff and
Yep.
smaller things to kind of keep things trickling out to keep the interest going.
That's a good, that, because that was a total surprise, right?
Yeah.
Little detachments sprinkled out. That was a big surprise. So,
And it
yeah.
wasn't for those that didn't have codexes. It was for
Hmm.
everybody, whether you've
Yeah.
had a codex or not. So it gives a little bit more gameplay and it freshens things up a bit. We'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see. What I've been playing right now to keep
Kill
my
team.
is Kill Team. And it's been really fun. I'm playing
Hmm.
in the league again with Sam and
Hmm.
like I'm I'm super proud of how he's doing. He's been doing really well in the league. He's
Hmm.
right now. I think we're on round 7 of it. Some people still haven't entered scores. I think he's currently in like fifth place, sixth place, or something like that.
Oh,
I'm in a
wow.
I'm in about eighth.
Right.
Um, when they did the other week, they released kind of point. That's in wins losses on the point scale. I'm somewhere in third or fourth for points in the entire
Just
thing.
overall scoring.
Yeah, overall scoring. But
Right.
wins losses, I'm kind of a little bit lower down. But it's just been so much fun. It's been such a nice break from it because it's
Yep.
it's really just a changing things on the fly. You do something with one guy, I've now got to respond and figure out how my strategy is going to change now and
Hmm.
things like that. It's just been a lot of fun that way, playing a lot of different armies,
Cool.
and a lot of different variety. It's been that kind of nice, keeping me in 40K without playing
Keeping you in
competitive
Warhammer.
40K. Yeah.
Yeah. Keeping the Warhammer going without, and but you're playing Space Marines,
I'm currently playing Space Marines.
right?
The league is going to be ending, I think, after next week, and then there's a tournament on the go that Sam and I
Nice.
are signed up for. And I'm thinking of playing just to play something completely different. I'm
Hmm.
thinking of
Go on.
playing Mandrakes,
Oh shit. Drukhari. Interesting.
Drukhari Mandrakes.
Just
They
buying
have,
a. Oh, you have a box,
I
right?
have a box of them. I haven't built them yet, so getting
You
them
know
built
you
and
have to
painted won't be
you
a
have to
big
paint
deal.
them green, right? The green is
I thought is it green? Is that the
it's
color
green.
that? Oh, Jesus.
Remember,
I
he's
thought it was
colorblind,
black. I
gentle
thought it,
listener.
I thought it
He's
was a black
colorblind.
color. But
No,
anyway,
they're
I was,
like little flame things, or like whatever that is.
oh,
It's like
okay.
bright green.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Good to
interesting.
know. I'll have to
You
play with
could
that.
make it purple, blue, red, whatever you like,
That's the thing. It'll be whatever color I have at
whatever you
hand.
think looks good,
Yeah.
or that's sitting on the desk. Yeah.
Um, But yeah, they've got an interesting mechanic in them. They've got something about I think it's called Soul Strike is
Okay.
the ability on their weapons, where
Okay.
instead of going against your kind of save stat,
Okay.
it uses your activation points
Oh.
instead, which is a really ch cheeky thing because a lot of armies have two activation points or three activation points, and you have to roll under your activation points. So you're
Ooh.
fishing for ones and twos as opposed to trying to get your threes and fours and that kind of thing.
Right.
So I'm like, it sounds like a fun little change of pace on them. I don't know how well they play or anything like that, but I like they stick to the shadows. They're always using cover. Once per turn, a guy can teleport from one side of the map to the other so long as he
Cool.
is remaining in cover. And then they've got this kind of thing that really wreaks havoc on how the regular save system works.
So
So,
they're more ability centric than like strength toughness kind of
yeah,
centric.
exactly.
Opposite of Space Marines.
They're little glass cannon type of
Mm,
ideas where they can get in there. If they get into melee, they can do some serious damage there, but they've only got about 8 wounds on them, which on
right.
us against a Space Marine is like
Not good.
two solid hits with their rifle, and you're kind
They're
of toast.
gone. Well,
Um,
you'll have to get some practice games in with Sam
yeah, for sure.
before you roll out with those.
But
So
that
you've got a kill team tournament coming up then,
Yes, the Kill Team tournament is kind of what caps off
the league.
the league season. So it's been a hell of a lot of fun.
Mm.
Almost everybody in the league, I would say, out of like I think there's only 14 of us now that are still playing. A couple people had to drop out. I think four have been playing it consistently,
Oh,
like before the league started, and then so there's
okay.
like 10 of us that are all pretty new to the whole game.
Oh,
So
cool.
it's been a lot of fun and it's been a lot of learning and
Right.
it's just been a nice refreshing break to the whole thing. What about
Nice.
you? Are you still doing the
Age of
AOS?
Sigmar, man. Yeah, I mean my Warhammer breather or like what's keeping the fire going here
Hmm.
for Warhammer is Age of Sigmar. Um, I played over the holidays. I got another game in as part of our AOS league. Played into a friend of mine, Mike, and his Seraphon, which was really fun to play. We had a very close game. I think the difference was like 2 to 4 points or something like that. It was like a battle
Lizards
tactic
on
or
dinosaurs.
lizards on dino Aztec lizard men from space riding dinosaurs. Like the
Yeah.
aesthetic doesn't get any better than that, right?
Yeah.
um, Against my, guys off of the heavy metal album covers from the
Yeah.
80s
Yeah, exactly.
and my Slaves to Darkness.
A
Uh,
Norwegian death metal band just
yeah,
showing up.
exactly, exactly. Uh, and this was after a balance update, so I had to tweak my list a bit.
Okay.
And I'm running the usual Bellacore, the reinforced Brick of Chosen, a sorcerer, Chaos Sorcerer Lord, a unit of Chaos Knights, a unit of Varanguard, and then I have a whole regiment that's Dark Oath, kind of like my little barbarian guys.
Nice.
So I got a Dark Oath Chieftain, and then their Dark Oath Savagers and a unit of Dark Oath Fell Riders,
Right on.
which is just kind of their, they're basically cannon fodder. But there's
Hmm.
always a chance that that chieftain can turn into a demon prince. That's how the new mechanic. And you need 8 apotheosis points. I got up to 5 in the game. I came very close.
Okay. And how do you get those points?
Basically, you can test. I think you get them if you can contesting an objective in enemy territory,
Okay.
and every time you use a fight ability.
Oh,
So anytime you fight, so the guy needs to fight and live. You collect D3 apotheosis points.
okay. So
Um,
it's definitely
so
doable.
it's doable. You're telling me there's a chance. There's definitely a chance. But it's just a riot. And there's less, like I said, there's a lot less kind of admin. It
Right.
feels like there's a lot less micromanagement, like on even list building and things like that. I mean, it helps that Slaves to Darkness is a very simple army, very straightforward to
Hmm.
play. Uh, on the hobby side of things, I picked up a ton of Lumineth over the holidays.
Okay.
And I've got well over 2,000 points now of Lumineth Realm Lords. So I've built up quite a lot of it, and I'm going to be hobbying away on that because I've
Nice.
signed up for the Canada Tabletop Games out in Ottawa,
Mm-hmm.
the weekend of May 24th. And I've signed up for the AOS 2-day grand tournament there, where
Nice.
they're handing out golden tickets.
Look at
They've got
you.
three to hand out. I'm just
One
saying.
one might have your name on it.
Yeah, there's a chance. There's a chance.
Can't
Yeah,
win if you don't play.
exactly. Exactly. There's not a chance in hell I'll get one, but
But it's there.
but it's there. It's
Like
there,
being
man. And
like
it's, it's a gaming convention.
hmm.
There's people there playing Bolt Action.
Oh,
There's
nice.
40K, AOS. Um, Old World, no heresy. I don't know why. That's heretical. That in and of itself is heresy.
It's
Don't know why
heresy.
there's no heresy there, but it's bullshit. Um,
Show up in an Inquisitor's outfit.
yeah,
Just be like heretics.
heretics. Uh, so yeah, I saw that right now early bird pricing is available. So if any of our listeners out there are thinking about going or on the fence, it's like I don't know, 10, $15 cheaper to sign
Nice.
up now. Uh, I've only read and heard good things about this
Hmm.
tournament, so I'm super excited about it. I think
That's
it's going to
amazing.
be a
It'll
lot
be
of
your
fun.
first GT
It'll be unless something comes up.
between
Right
now and then.
now, I was signed up for the Red Dragon GT.
Yeah.
Uh, and I was looking ahead at the weather and I was worried about making it the day of. And
Hmm.
then ended up getting sick over the holidays anyway, so I wouldn't have been able to go to the GT anyway because I was sick.
Right.
So I bailed on that early enough um, to not it didn't inconvenience them. They gave me a refund and all that stuff. They were able to fill the spot. They had a waiting list.
That's
So I
great.
missed all that to say I missed out on my first GT experience,
Hmm.
unfortunately. Um, and right now, I I haven't seen any that are kind of within my sphere, and by that I mean that are close enough to me
Yeah.
that I can sign up for, and even if it is snowing or the drive's miserable, I can make it happen.
Right.
Right now, to travel a good distance during these months, you know, January,
It's hit or
February,
miss. It's really hit
it's
or miss.
super hit and miss.
Yeah.
And then there's other things obviously going on. We haven't abandoned our day jobs to do this full time yet,
Or our
so
families.
our families,
Families. Although there are days.
yeah. So so yeah. So all that to say, it will probably be my
Hmm.
first GT unless something comes up that fits in
Yeah.
the interim. So I'm
That's
really looking
exciting.
forward to it, and it
That's
sounds like
exciting.
it's got a bit of a convention to it. Like I think there's like people selling stuff and
Hmm.
all
It
kinds
sounds
of
really neat. It
things.
looks really cool. I don't know that I'll be able to make it, but it sounds
No.
really neat. And a GT, I mean, I encourage people, even if they're on the fence, like GTs are highly competitive. Don't
Hmm.
get me wrong,
Yeah.
but it can be a hell of a lot of fun, and it's a great learning experience. Like playing at any tournament, whether it's an RT, whether it's just your regular tournament at just a friendlies tournament type of thing at your
Hmm.
local game store or wherever you can play. I highly encourage people to get out and try them because it gets you out of playing your norm and it lets
Yeah.
you experience things differently.
I bet.
As annoyed and disheartened as I am right now, having
Yeah.
played in a few things and been actually losing so much, but it is a great learning platform for the game. It teaches you the
Hmm.
rules better. It teaches you your army better. It teaches you how to be a good sportsman or gamesman,
Hmm.
or woman, whatever you happen to be. Like it teaches you the social contract of gaming. Um, and I think that's something that I think a lot of people are kind of
Hmm.
forgetting the benefits are of playing in competitions or getting out and playing at your local store or stuff like that. Like it teaches you how to lose nicely. It teaches you
Yep.
how to win nicely. It teaches you how to appreciate a game regardless of outcome.
Yep.
These things are really, really important. It's
Hmm.
one of the things that I'm really happy about having signed up in the league with someone like my son, just to teach him
Hmm.
like,
Sportsmanship and
chivalry and that kind of
fair
stuff,
play.
fair play and
Hmm.
just how to take it on the chin and be like, you know what? I lost. I didn't play
No
that
big
one.
deal.
No biggie. It is
It's a
the way it
game of
is.
plastic toys and dice.
Yep.
Like, who gives a shit?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's really important because I think there's a few people that we've played into
Hmm.
that we've played at tournaments or that we've played in different things where you're like, ooh, you could play that nicer.
Hmm.
Like you don't have to celebrate my failures quite
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not appreciated.
Yeah.
Things like that. Like it's always good to just go out and be humble and be nice.
Mm.
It doesn't cost anybody to be nice to play
No.
this stuff.
No.
So I think that's what's important, and that all of that to say, I think getting out to GTs and all that kind of stuff is really great to help you learn some of those things. Because when I went to the GTA 40K at the end of
Hmm.
September or whenever it was, like I played into some really fantastic players,
Hmm.
and they were fantastic because they were good at their game, but they were
Hmm.
also really great opponents.
Yeah, Mr. Nick Blackburn, right?
Yeah, he great, absolutely
Top
fantastic.
ace
Um,
player and like a perfect gentleman to play against. You had a
was
riot
just so
fighting
great.
him.
Had so much
Yeah.
fun playing into him. Had my ass
Hmm.
handed to me. Had
Hmm.
a great conversation afterwards.
Hmm.
But it's like having those experiences makes playing the game more fun.
Yeah, for sure.
So I
For
highly
sure.
encourage that. I'm really excited for you to get out and play it and see kind of what
Yeah.
the community's like it out in that area.
Yeah,
Um,
no, Ottawa's on my doorstep, right?
mhm.
So it's like about an hour and a half, hour and 45, depending where it is. And it is definitely on my to-do list, both on the AOS and 40K side of things,
Yep.
for sure. Um, there's just a few things I want to mention. I know coming up February 1st, for anyone who's interested that's listening, there is a one-day Age of Sigmar tournament at SBT Comics here in Kingston. I
Cool.
think it's listed on Malarkey as well as Best Coast Pairings. February 22nd, J&B Books in Trenton.
Nice. I didn't check into
They're
that one.
hosting an RTT, a 40K RTT. Um, I looked it over. It looks like a great time. For
Hmm.
me, the timing, that particular day, I don't think is going to work for me, or I'd be going. Trenton's only an hour from here. It's probably only an hour and 20 minutes for you, hour
Yeah.
and 30 minutes. And it'd be like, I'd love to go out and support that scene. So certainly if you're listening and you're
Hmm.
at all curious, like, it's not that far from
And
the
those are some
center of the
great guys that come
GTA.
out to the tournaments and stuff like that. Some good players, some fair players, some good
Yeah,
opponents.
I think you've played a couple of those guys.
Played a
I
few of
have
them,
had the
yeah.
pleasure. I think we chatted with a couple guys before a tournament, and seems like a nice bunch of people. And I'm
Hmm.
certainly hearing good things about that community. So definitely something for people to keep in mind that's coming up
Hmm.
on the horizon for February.
Yeah. And if anybody out there has anything that they want to throw our way, like to let us know about that we're not currently aware of or anything like
Hmm.
that, leave us a comment, fire off an email, constellationleague@gmail.com.
Hmm.
You can do any way that you want to reach out to us. You could reach out to us, and we'd
Yeah,
be happy to chat with you.
great. Well, thanks everybody for listening. And I'm sure following this podcast, the next time you see us, it will be in the Consolation League.
100%.